Minimum requirement for Criminology laboratory. Police photography. Cameras 35mm with tripod and accessories. A 35mm format, or just called 35mm, describes a common type of image sensor format that used in film photography. The larger the film, the better the resolution. That is the general rule in film photography. Smaller formats like 35mm will be noticeable grainer when printed, but that's often a much loved result of film photography. Camera 4x5 with stand and accessories. Now in its fourth generation, the Intrepid 4x5 is a modern rethink of the traditional large format field camera. The aluminum base, rare focus and linear guides are features usually only seen in high-end cameras and allow for consistent pin-sharp focus and increased stability even with the heaviest lenses. Next up is the dryer. It provides sort of protection for forensic evidence from tampering, loss, airborne pathogens, and cross-contamination while drying. Next is enlarger, also known as projection printer, a device used for producing photographic print or negative larger than the original negative for transparency. The modern enlarger consists of a projection assembly attached to a vertical column that is mounted on a horizontal base. Contact printer. A contact printer is a kind of easel that enables you to make a sheet of thumbnail prints from a roll of film that has been cut into strips, usually containing 6 images per strip for 35mm film and 3 or 4 images per strip for medium format negatives. Cutter. Cutters are hand tools which are used to cut a variety of materials. An average pair of cutters has 2 levers fixed together by a fulcrum, which is located closer to one end. The shorter part is the jaws and the longer section comprises the handles. These tools use levers to extend and increase the strength of grip. Timer. Timers are used to measure specific time intervals, but in electrical engineering terms, timers are also referred to as counters often. The timer is a component which is extensively used in different embedded systems. They are used to keep a record of time for different events occurring in the embedded systems. Now let us proceed with the 120mm cameras. 120 film is less popular format than the 35mm, but it is technically superior film to use. The increased size of the film negative allows much more resolution and detail. 120 film is harder to find and you probably won't find it at any corner store. The cameras that are used in 120 film are usually quite a bit larger than their 35mm cousins, and more professional models can be heavy and even little unwieldy. 120 film also became more popular in the subgenre of toy cameras. These are cheap cameras that are technically poor, but photographers use the low fidelity to gain a certain aesthetic effect. Real stainless 120mm. The Samigan stainless steel developing reels are made from unbreakable satin finish stainless steel. They have a rigid core and cross braces that keeps the reel aligned with a clip that holds the film ends to make loading easy. Reels 135mm. Translucent reel for reversal slide processing allows an easy insertion of the film even if wet. Developing tanks. A developing tank is a light, tight container used for developing film. A developing tank allows photographic film to be developed in a daylight environment. This is necessary because most film is panchromatic and therefore cannot be exposed to any light during processing. And last one for police photography is trays for developing and fixing. The tray method is used primarily for processing only a few sheets of film. Put 3 trays large enough to handle the size of film being developed on a table. The first tray is for the developer. The second one is for the step bath, and the third is for the hypofixer. Question document. Starting with the Pika test plate. Test plates or grids have long been recognized as a significant aid to the document examiner. They serve as a laboratory tool to reveal physical facts and also are recognized as a means, especially in properly prepared photographic demonstration charts, of displaying these facts to a court and jury. Typewriting protractor. The upper portion of this polyester film template is used to determine the slant angle of handwriting in either direction. The lower section is used to determine letter frequency or the space factor of handwriting. Camera 35mm for question document with stand. A 35mm format, or better known as a common type of image sensor format, that is used for better resolution in film photography. Next, the stereoscopic microscopes. Commonly used in forensic laboratory work, stereo microscopes are low-power microscopes that provide three-dimensional views of specimens visible to the naked eye. Stereo microscopes utilize binocular eyepieces and are often enhanced with digital features. The enlarger is a type of printing where the image in a negative is optically projected or enlarged onto a print material for exposure to produce picture image. Dryer. Drying marks irregular marks on a film emulsion caused by uneven drying when processed. This can be prevented by using wetting agent in the final wash. Paper cutter, also known as paper guillotine or simply guillotine, is a tool often found in offices and classrooms designed to cut a large amount of paper sheets to be able to issue a document with a large line in one swift slice.
The ultraviolet rays machine!
UV light allows investigators and forensic researchers to examine clues and recover evidence that could not have been previously detected. UV light provides more detail and contrast to an injured area, including bite marks, than standard lighting techniques. And the infrared rays machine. With infrared light, forensic investigators can tell you whether a document is a forgery or whether paper currency is counterfeit. They can take a paint chip and tell you the make, model, and the age of a car. Interesting, right? Forensic chemistry.
Test tube 30 ml. It's one of the most commonly used pieces of laboratory ware. These test tubes are the perfect shape and size to hold small amounts of substances. It's usually liquid, which are then manipulated in some way, such as being placed over the flame of a Bunsen burner. A test tube holder. Its main purpose is to hold test tubes. It is also used for holding a test tube in place when the tube is shut or should not be touched. A test tube rack is a piece of laboratory equipment used to hold multiple test tubes upright at the same time. They are especially useful for organizing test tubes when different solutions are being worked on or collected at once. The Erlenmeyer flask. It's a 250 ml container used to heat and store liquids. Funnel 75 mm. It's used for separating solid substances from solution or liquid substances. May be made of ceramic or plastic and used for filtering. The bottom of the fit is a porous glass surface which allows material to be trapped. Evaporating dish 75 mm are used to evaporate excess solvents, most commonly water. Bunsen burner is a laboratory instrument that can be used to provide a single continuous flame by mixing gas with air in a controlled fashion. The ratio of a gas to air that is mixed together can be manually adjusted, allowing the user to control the intensity and temperature and size of the flame. In other words, the Bunsen burner is a flaming thrower. Graduated cylinder is a piece of laboratory apparatus used to measure the volume of a liquids, chemicals, or solutions during the lab daily work. Graduated cylinders are the more precise and accurate than the common laboratory flasks and beakers. Beakers. It consists of 600 ml, 400 ml, 250 ml, 100 ml. They are useful as a reaction container or to hold a liquid or solid samples. They are also useful to catch liquids from titrations and filtrates from the filtering operations. Calcium chloride tube is usually used to pack drying tubes to exclude atmospheric moisture from a reaction setup while allowing gases to escape. It can also be added to liquids to remove or suspend or dissolve in water. In this capacity, it is known as a drying agent or desiccant. A clay triangle tube is a wire and ceramic triangle used to support a crucible while it is heated over a Bunsen burner. A crucible is a ceramic vessel with a lid that is used to heat solid chemical substances to high temperatures so to dry them completely or to induce a reaction without a solution. Cobalt glass is a blue glass useful for masking yellow emission or sodium emission. This can be especially useful for identifying elements that quickly emit blue and or violet. Liquids or solid can be tested simply by introducing the sample into the flame. Crucible and copper. It is used in the laboratory to contain chemical compounds when heated to extreme high temperatures. Crucibles are available in several sizes and typically come with a correspondingly sized lid, which is the cover. Crucible tongs are scissor-like tools, but instead of having two blades, these tools are replaced with two pincers or pieces of metal that concave together, which allow the user to grasp a hot crucible, flask, evaporating dish, or even small beakers. An iron clamp is a piece of laboratory equipment used to hold things and is placed in an iron stand to elevate other equipment. Pipette A, pipette, pipette, pipetter, or a chemical dropper is a laboratory tool commonly used in chemistry, biology, and medicine to transport a measured volume of liquid. Mortar and pestle. A mortar is a vessel or container in which substances are ground or crushed with a pestle. A pestle is a tool used to crush, mash, or grind materials in a mortar. In a solid state chemistry, a mortar and pestle is often used to prepare reactants for a solid-state synthesis. Reagent bottles are 500 ml bottles, also known as media bottles or graduated bottles. These are containers made of glass, plastic, borosilicate, or related substances, and topped by special cups or stoppers. They are intended to contain chemicals in a liquid or powder form for laboratories and stored in cabinets or on shelves. Burette acid. These are acid-based titrations that are used to determine the concentration of a sample of an acid or base and are carried out using a piece of equipment called a burette. It is a long glass tube with a top at the end which can be used to very carefully add drops of liquid to a test solution. Burette alkali is a volumetric measuring laboratory glassware or test tube which is used in analytical chemistry for accurate dispensing of variable and for measuring the volume of liquid, especially one of the regions in a titration. Burette lamp is an essential tool for any lab that requires a heating solution with a burner and a ring stand. This metal tool attaches to the stand to hold a glass burette or a test tube, flask, and etc.